Welcome to Monster Monday. Alright, so this is a patron request, and it is for Gabe Herndon. I think I said that correctly. It was, so somebody came in and they became a patron of mine, and they gave away their request to anyone who wanted it to be a nice person. And that person was Crazy Nut 56 is the YouTube name that he goes by. And so Gabe was the person who picked that request up. So he asked me to do the Relic. Let's talk about it. Thank you to Crazy Nut for the patron support, and thank you to Gabe for the recommendation. I have not seen this since the late 90s. I know it came out in 97. I probably saw it around then, and I have not seen it since. The director of this did one of the freaking most underappreciated sequels ever, because the, masterpiece that the first one is recognized as kind of overshadows it. And that is 2010, The Year We Make Contact. I actually prefer that movie as a film. I like 2001 more as an art piece. It's Stanley Kubrick being his artsy filmmaker self. And it's a very cool ass movie, don't get me wrong. But 2010 is more of a traditional film, and its plot line and its mystery and intrigue is just more, it's easier to watch on repeated viewings. So I don't know. I'm not going to say that 2010 is a better fucking film overall. 2001 is obviously what it is, but 2010 as a film that I can digest and watch, as a movie, I actually prefer 2010. He also did End of Days with Arnold, and he did a couple Van Damme movies, Time Cop and Sudden Death, and then he also did a favorite comedy of mine when I was a kid in the early 90s with John Ritter called Stay Tuned. I loved that frickin' movie. The guy gets sucked into his television set and they just have to run through the channels. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a really cool movie. But I was looking through this guy's filmography and I was like, oh man, this guy has done some really cool shit. This movie stars Penelope Ann Miller, which, I remember seeing her a decent amount back then, but then she kind of just disappeared. And the last thing I remember seeing her in was The Artist, which I loved. I loved that movie. And I remember when I saw the movie, I was like, Penelope Ann, what the hell happened to that chick? She was in a ton of stuff back in the day, and then she kind of just faded away. Another person that I just don't see anymore that I love is Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore is very good at what he does. He's got that role that he can play, and I love it. The best that he's ever played it, personally, is in Natural Born Killers. What a fantastic film, and I just love him as Scagnetti. Scagnetti on Scagnetti. Good stuff. And then I have to mention it, if Rebecca's watching, she's going to think that my camera's about to cut out, because I'm about to talk about just one of the guys. But we've got Rick Morehouse himself, Clayton Rohner in this. It's funny, my memory of this movie is that I never know if to call him Clayton or Rick, but to me he's Rick Morehouse. So I had remembered this as Rick Morehouse's film. I knew there was a chick in it. I couldn't remember who the chick was. The only thing I had remembered cast-wise is that Rick Morehouse was in this. And I thought he was the main cop. I thought he was Tom Sizemore's character. So that was my memory of this movie, because it's Rick Morehouse. I put him in there. We also have Brooks Hatlin in here from The Shawshank Redemption. So always good to see him. This is, 3 years after The Shawshank Redemption, so he's even older, but he was still kicking back then. Shawshank. What a great movie. All right, so this is a really cool movie, man. And what makes this movie really cool is the creature design and how well the practicals, and honestly even the CGI for the time, holds up. I actually thought the CGI wasn't all that dated. Does it look amazing? No, but I don't know. It looked better than some of the shit I see today, especially like on a sci-fi network or something. Well, sci-fi's gotten better, but you know what I'm getting at. I actually thought there was a scene where the beast, I mean, spoilers obviously, there's a scene at the end when the beast is on fire and he's running around, and fire's hard to make look good. And for 97, I mean, I thought it actually looked pretty damn good. I was pretty surprised. Does it look as good as now? No, but I was surprised. And the creature, I thought the way they blended practicals and CG. Now, granted, this film is very dark. I mean, dark. So it is very hard to see at times. And I watched the Good Bad Flicks breakdown of this last night after I watched the movie, because I remember he had done it and I wanted to hear what he had to say about it. And I guess that was the director's intent. He wanted dark to be dark because he didn't want to do day for night shots like a lot of people do. He wanted darkness to actually be darkness, and when it was in theaters you could actually see, but then when it was on VHS and whatnot you couldn't. And so there was some kind of backlash to that. But why are the effects so good? Stan Winston. I mean, Stan Winston's crew, who worked on freaking Jurassic Park not a few years before this, did this, and they blended the CG to the practicals. And when they were up close and everything was, personal, it was all practical, and the practicals on the monster are awesome. I was looking at the monster, and because you can't clearly see him ever in this film, like fully, like I don't know, like they kind of show, but it's so quick and it's this and that. And yes, you get some close-ups here and there, but I don't know. I don't feel like you ever really get to see the thing just out in the open in bright light. You never do get to see the thing in bright light, except for when it's on fire, but it's kind of being covered by something. But from what I could tell, it kind of looked almost like a tremor with legs, like a beast body, like the gargoyle's body. The freaking thing from Ghostbusters that's running around. I also kind of had a face like the mix between a tarantula and like a woolly mammoth. It was a weird freaking creature, but a cool one. And another really great thing about this movie, it is hard R rated. The kills are all on screen for the most part. Guys are being picked up and their heads are being severed from their body right there and put. Great stuff. You get to see a guy literally picked up from the monster. The monster starts to slowly pull his head away, and his head detaches and comes away. No cuts at all. It's awesome, man. That shit's great. Probably one of my favorite sequences of this entire film, from the horror perspective especially, is when all the SWAT excuse me, when all the SWAT dudes are like rappelling in one after the other, and the thing is just picking them off right and left. It's just a really cool sequence, and the effects look really cool. It's a very frightening sequence. It really shows you the the devastation this thing can wreak. Like, this thing can wreak some serious havoc. So I thought that scene was tense and cool. And then the guy comes up and he's like trying to get out of there, and they pull him up and half of his body's gone. We've seen it a bunch by this point. I don't know how cliche that was at this time in 97, because it's always hard, because this movie's 22 fucking years old now. So there's things you'll see in it that you're like, I've seen that a million times. And it's like, well, have I seen it a million times since like before 97? Or have I seen it a million times since 97, So that's always tough to do with watching older film, is it'll actually be victim to films that have borrowed from it, and maybe not even that film itself, but borrowed from the genre, and it's become a cliche thing. And then when you watch an old movie that may have gotten that done before it became cliche, it becomes cliche anyways, and that's unfair to it. So I always try to scale back that stuff when I watch movies like this, because of that very reason. But I dug it. And yeah, I was very impressed with the level of graphic on-screen violence. I mean, there's an autopsy scene, because the guard, the first guy killed in the museum, is his guard, and they find his body, and his head is detached, and his brain is laying on the floor. Then they bring it back to the precinct, and they go down below where they're investigating the body, and the coroner is examining the body, and she's just, throwing the brain around, and the head's laying there. She's looking in it. It's a great autopsy scene. It looks very realistic. I mean, it doesn't look super realistic, don't get me wrong, but it looks really, really good. And it's gory, man. But yeah, so Tom Sizemore is Lieutenant DeGusta, and we have Dr. Margot Green, which is played by Penelope Ann Miller, and she is the, what is she? She's like a freaking, she says it a bunch of times, an evolutionist, something evolutionist. And so they get this crate, because in the beginning, this guy sends a crate, this other guy tries to stop it. I'm confused about something. So Gabe, because you pushed, wanted me to watch this, pushed so hard for me to watch this, must be a favorite of yours that you've seen a bunch. When they get the crate is sealed, and everyone on board is dead. But then at the end of the movie, we find out that the monster is actually the dude from the beginning, the doctor who was over there, which is fairly obvious about, I don't know, halfway into the movie, which isn't a bad thing. But what happened there? Was he on board the boat and he went down there and ate stuff, and then, because that bug mutates like instantly, like whatever eats that shit, and it becomes this big bug that runs out and she squishes. Was he in that box and then he came out and then nailed it back shut? Was he outside of the box and he was just bringing leaf samples with him? I would assume that it was in there, right? But they say that it was sealed shut. So how did it get out? Did the monster reseal it? I'm confused on that. Maybe they said it in the movie and I missed it, but I was confused on that one. So if you got an answer for that, or if anybody does, let me know. All right. And we get a stupid cat scare. A stupid fucking cat scare. There's no one alive on board, but there's a fucking cat there to scare. Stop with the cat scares. They're so dumb. Why cats? I like that DeGusta here is a superstitious person, and that they're doing an exhibit on superstitions. I thought that those played off of each other pretty well, and he was going off around it, like, it played on everyone's superstitions. I wish it would have played into it more, to be honest. I felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. Setting up the lucky bullet as a possible, you think when that lucky bullet's introduced that it's going to be used to kill the monster. It's his lucky bullet, right? And I'm so glad they didn't go that way. And I'm also very glad that this is... I'll tell you this. If this movie was released in 2019, there would be a lot of people who would actually attack this film for being, too progressive of the times and social justice warrior, blah, 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 because the woman saves herself and doesn't need the man. But back when this happened, it's cool, right? This is why I get so annoyed with so many people these days. They just try to find something to bitch about, always. It's awesome that this chick handles this monster by herself, that bullet doesn't come into play, that there's a lot of things that are set up here that you think are going to happen. You think, of course, that Tom Sizemore, DeGusta, or whatever is going to come in and save the day, and it isn't. It's this chick who uses her brain and uses the advantages she has, which is she has a vast knowledge of chemicals and her layout, and she breaks all these things open. She creates a bomb. She goes down and she locks herself in that big tank that's making rhino soup or whatever, and she blows the place up. Yes, I'm jumping ahead, but I really liked a lot of these things that I just wanted to talk about him. This movie's 2 freaking hours long. I was pretty surprised about that, but it's a good damn movie. It's a good creature feature that I don't feel like is talked about enough. Kind of glad that Gabe was so persistent on this, because it's not one I was rushing to get back to, because my memory of it was that it was, you know, fine. It was like a Deep Rising or something, that it was just like, this was cool, this was kind of fun, whatever, it wasn't a big deal. But is a really, really damn good creature feature. I mean, my only gripe with it is that I wish the director wasn't so dedicated to this whole darkness thing. But it's clearly, it's an homage to Alien, as I found out. You can feel, that was funny when I was watching it. I was like, this feels very Alien at times. Even feels like Alien 3 sometimes, but Alien 3 feels more like Alien than Aliens. But yeah, I was getting a heavy Alien vibe here, and come to find out that that's what he was going for. So that's great. We get to see all these bodies torn apart underneath the boat. So more bodies. There's a lot of decapitated bodies. There's a lot of bodies found just strewn about, headless, armless. This thing has freaking just destroyed people, and I love it. The kids staying in the museum after hours, I guess, is a callback to a nightmare that he had when he was a kid, and what eventually led him to work on this movie. I thought that was pretty cool. And let's see, the creature goes around and steals the part of the brain that creates hormones, the hypothalamus. I love the line where he's talking to her, because they're trying to figure out what's going on here, because this thing is like some evolutionary anomaly. Brooks Hatlin's character thinks that there's got to be some kind of a step in the evolutionary process where something comes in and wipes things out. I don't know. But there's this great line with her where he's like, "Are we still evolving?" And she's like, "Some of us are." It's a great retort, and it's not really like a wink where he gets it and smiles or laughs or anything. He just walks, and it's just a good line. I thought it was very clever, and kind of shows you where she's at, because she has a rivalry. I struggle with that word so fucking much. Rivalry. I think I'm saying that right. Damn, that's one of my words. Fucking hate that. What word of yours? What's a word that you have such a hard time saying? I have a few, and that's one of them. I hate saying it. But anyway, she has a rivalry with Dr. Lee, who is just such a little weasel. Oh my God, you want this guy to die throughout the entire flick. And, oh shit, I watched this last night. Did he die? I don't think he did. Shit. I don't think he did, because I feel like I would have clapped if he did. No, I don't think he does. There's a scene in this, because once, I don't know how the hell this relic, this creature, sneaks up on these guards. I was like, okay, this is like a ninja freaking monster all of a sudden. This like freaking 2,000 pound monster that can't seem to keep itself quiet at any moment is sneaking up on people. That's always how these things are. But he comes in there and he shuts the whole building down. So of course the whole place just starts, doors are all shutting, sprinkler systems are all going off because they're having an earthquake. I guess the thing is attacking the security systems for some reason. I guess it makes sense, because at the end of the movie, the doctor that is now the beast has a moment with Dr. Green, and you can see there's recognition. So this doctor came to this museum specifically because that's his home. He knew how to get there. He knew the place inside and out. And I think he had some consciousness left to him that was still him inside of this thing, and he could go around, and he knew the security systems, and he knew what to do and how to lure people and what time to feed and what time to go for what. So I thought that was kind of cool to contemplate. The cops in this movie are very jumpy. They shoot a homeless man like 8 fucking times before they realize that it's not who they're looking for. But then they start to feel better about it because they find, the dead guy, the dead freaking security guard's wallet and some of his blood on him. But then they find the necklace from the crew, one of the crew members of the ship that came into the dock. Like, I like that about the movie too. There's another thing. I'm a big, I'm a big fan of Where Is Everybody movies, and the ship is just like fucking floundering out there in the ocean, and they find it and there's no one aboard, so they gotta tug it back to the harbor, and they go and investigate, and there's just no one on there. And they find all these bodies down below eventually. But I love that, like, just everyone disappears. That's always just been so scary to me. But they just think they got it because they want to open this gala bad. Like, they need this event to happen. And the mayor, when he calls and he's talking about, like, have you seen my wife's cleavage? It's been all the papers, and he's talking about the gala and how he has to go. I thought that dialogue from him was really funny. I actually really dug the hell out of it. He's not in it a bunch, but I don't know. He played that character pretty damn well. I dug it. I like how the dog doesn't even bark at the thing once it sees. It's like it chases after it, but then once it sees it, it like recognizes it as the alpha, and it's just like, nope, you win. I'll put my head down. That dog, I like that because dogs will fucking attack anything, but if a dog is so scared it won't even bark at something like that, like something that's trained to not be like that, that thing must be terrifying, which it very much is. Love the decapitated body falling off of the ceiling, like through the spikes in the exhibit there. Great stuff. More just added gore to the film. There's got to be 20, 30 dead bodies in this movie, and a good amount of them are practical gore displayed effects. So awesome stuff there. Rick Morehouse's chair slide through the water is so theatrical, but it's all for nothing, so it's kind of funny. I also thought it was a tad ironic that it actually paid to be a dick in this movie, because usually it's all the people who went nuts when the creature was running through the place trampled over everyone to get the fuck out of there. And the majority of them, the people who kind of stayed behind, were either elderly or weren't being dicks. I don't know which to make of it there, but the people who did trample each other to get out of there lived. I mean, except for the people who probably died getting trampled. But outside of that, it was only a few of them. All the other people just got out of there. And all the people who kind of were behind got stuck in there, and a bunch of them were killed. So it actually paid in this movie to be an asshole who didn't look out for each other. You can run, but you don't got to trample over anyone or kill someone that's in one of those freaking spinning doors. What are those things called? No, I know that. The little carousel doors. Whatever. Doesn't matter. And yeah, I already talked about that. Oh, when they're all trapped inside of there and the sprinklers are going off and it's filling up with water, and they're deciding to like go and try to get out, and there's like this this vent or whatever that they can go through. Like, some of them decide we're gonna stay back, and the other ones are like, we're gonna go ahead, and they split up in that moment. It very, very much felt like the ballroom scene from the original Poseidon Adventure, which I'm a big fan of. It's my favorite disaster movie. It very much felt like that flick in that moment. Dr. Cuthbert, who is the chick from Kindergarten Cop and If Looks Could Kill, and she always looks the exact same in every movie. She's kind of a money hungry bitch for a minute in the beginning. I think that's the way it plays off for a little bit, but you can just tell that she's so dedicated to her museum that she'll do anything to get it, to save it. Because if they don't get this opening, then the place may go under. And she's just not going to let that happen. But Once she realizes something really is bad going on, I think she becomes pretty kick-ass. So I dug her in this. She always seems to be pretty cool in every movie. And so yeah, I mean, I still don't know what to make of the. So he ate this stuff and then became the creature. How fast does it take to become the creature? Like once you start eating it. If she would have ate some of those little eggs or fungus or whatever, she would have started mutating into a monster. But how quickly? That bug was like, seriously, within an hour. And we talked about all that stuff. The stalking and chasing scenes in this movie I thought were really tense and well done. And John Whitney, there it is, Dr. John Whitney. We already talked about all that. And at the end of this movie, I think I saw it right, but D'Augusta, after this thing is defeated, he almost conquers his superstition and steps over its body, right? That's him stepping over, or it's her stepping over and he's not stopping her. But either way, I feel like this is his superstition breaking. I don't know. But she just gives him his bullet back. Like, hey, thank you. I had your lucky bullet. Now I'm passing it back to you. So I guess it is, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's it. I just wish that it could have been brighter. I wish I could have saw the monster a little better, but because you don't see the monster as much and it's kind of in darkness, I do think that that helps hide any dodgy CGI that would have been better seen in light. So I guess the darkness was a good choice in that way, but it's very hard to see at times, and that can be to its detriment. But outside of that, if that Dr. Lee guy did live, that sucks. I really wish I could have saw him die, or at least I wish his death was memorable. So if he does die, I don't remember it, and that's not good. It should have been like a big, cool death. God, does he fucking die in this? I feel like I would have remembered if he does. He's schmoozing on these rich people throughout, and he takes them down, and they're getting attacked down there. He might have been, but it's not memorable, which kind of sucks. But yeah, it was a cool movie, man. Thanks for recommending it. And as far as the Scream series, I'm not going to go back and redo those, but I probably will talk about season 3 if it ever happens. Gabe was asking me if I've ever done the Scream series, and I'm like you guys, most of you guys, I'm waiting for season 3, which who the fuck knows when that's ever going to happen. But anyway, guys, all right. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to cover next, but I still have a ton of shit lined up, so I just got to make a decision on what that's going to be. I've had a really big fucking hard-on to watch Carrie lately, though. We'll see.